today's plan is to work on some audio programming and practice guitar. So, by the way, my name's Chris. Welcome to the channel. Hope you enjoy watching, and let's get started. I'm not going to be talking much, so I'll probably take a break around 11 o'clock or in about 48 minutes. So let's get started. Basically, what I'm doing here is I do want to make a synth, a basic synth, which is what I plan to do after I learn how to use JUCE a little bit better. And I'm probably going to follow some of the framework ideas in here, and probably I'm going to be reading this book as well. It's probably a little bit dated, but we'll see. It probably won't work, and I'll have to do it 1,000 times, but it might work, and I'll learn something. All right, so I've been using this YouTube channel called The Audio Programmer. They have a lot of free resources, and they have like a tutorial on how to use the latest version of JUCE. So, I'm watching these.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
And I'll probably put headphones on.
Of components that you can use to control just about anything in your audio app or plugin. And this is a good place for us to start, because this is one of the bread and butter objects that you will need to use when creating any sort of JUCE app or plugin. So let's go ahead and create a new project, and I will just call this test project. For now, I'm just going to make this a UI app because we aren't going to be producing sound today. I will just save this to the desktop.
See if I can just remember.
And now,
before I continue, let me just do a little bit of recap on where I got last time. So last time I was learning about how to add components and adding the header and the CPP file. So basically those need to be included here at the top. And I'm not sure exactly what, I guess this is turning it into something. I can't remember if it's a class or structure or something like that. So, but I need to add them here right now. Then what else was there? And in the main component, I need to set and make them visible. Then I also need to call them. Let's see. Let's just practice this a little bit, because it's been about maybe 5 days since I last did this. So let's break some stuff. Should pop up over here. Build succeeded. There we go. Okay. So I got the blue component, red component, get with, set bounds, get with. Okay. Well, let's get rid of all that red. What were the set bounds? See if I can get to fill this in. Okay, this is location, right? Set middle 300. 200. So 400. This would be a rectangle then, right? Should be a rectangle. And circle. It's the same size. So what if I do 400? So does it? Okay. Okay. Well, let's just try to add another component. I got blue component, red component. Let's just try to continue where we left off. So last time, what did I do? Add here. Add new CP and header file. New component class, I think. Yeah, is this one? Okay. Purple component. Okay, save it there. Put it in the project. Close this. Stop tasks. Then open. And it's added there. So I need to take my purple component and make sure it's included in the main component here. So include this. I guess, what is it? If I remember right, component. It's going to be classes should be capitalized. Oh, this. This capitalization and whatnot is going to cause a lot of problems, I think. I could probably do find, right? Yes. I learned case sensitivity is very important just now. So that should fix it, right? No? Still one more. Okay. It's working now. So purple component there. Add visible purple. Then I want this purple component that bounds. I want to set the color, right? So I go to here, H, CPPP. Ellipse. Ah, that's where I guess this, whatever, that's where it gets its shape here. It fill ellipse. Okay. Colors. I'm gonna say purple. I'm sure it should be a purple there. Okay. 200, 200, 200, 200. Let's see what this does. Rectangle. I think there's already a draw rectangle. What is a faster way to put a semicolon? Okay. Let's see the names here. All right, cool. I think that's a good refresher.
We have our source files, our main component, and our main, and then we're just going to save and open this in our IDE. So if you've been checking out the previous JUCE tutorials, you'll see that we were talking about the component class and how this is the base class for just about anything visual that you see in JUCE. And the slider class, if we just go to our JUCE API, and we will put a link to the actual documentation in the description. And if I just search for slider, we will find our slider class. And I prefer to do this because this is a great way just to show people that are just getting started how everything kind of works from the ground up. So what we could do is we could see that looking up here at our inheritance diagram, that slider inherits from the component class. So we covered what the component class does in our last two tutorials. And so essentially what that means is that anything that a slider can do, a component can do. Okay, because a slider is a type.
Whatever slider can do, a component. Okay. Whatever you can do, I can do.
And so now what we're going to do is we're going to start creating a slider. So what we'll do is we'll just go into our private section of our main component class, and we can just declare a slider by using the JUCE namespace and just calling it JUCE slider, and I'll just call this slider 1.
So what do you say to do? You say go to the main component. So go to the main component, private section. And what do I want to do? I want to make a JUCE. Try not to look what he said, wrote. Just slider. Capital, right? Slider. Then name it, right? Slider 1.
So now if we take a look here, we see that we have 3 different types of constructors that we can call on when we actually create this slider. Okay, so we can call a constructor where we don't give it any sort of arguments. We can give it a component name if we wish to refer to it later. We could also give the slider a slider style, and I'll show you more about that in a moment, and the text box entry position when we actually create the slider itself. So we'll actually walk through that a little bit later in this tutorial. So going over to our main component constructor, and we want to start thinking about some of the things that we want to do with this.
Let's see if I can hear the fan.
sliders. So for instance, there are different slider styles. So we have rotary sliders, we have linear sliders, and there are a couple different types of sliders that we can create. We also would like to think about what type of range that we'd want the slider to have. So the slider would need to have some sort of beginning value, some sort of end value, and we could also give it a default value where we actually say where we want the slider to start upon startup. So the natural place for us to actually give the slider these values would be in the main component class in the constructor.
All right,
and I'll
back
show
on
you
task.
more about that in a moment. And the text box entry position when we actually create the slider itself. So we'll actually walk through that a little bit later in this tutorial. So going over to our main component constructor, and we want to start thinking about some of the things that we want to do with this slider. So for instance, there are different slider styles. So we have rotary sliders, we have linear sliders, and there are a couple different types of sliders that we can create. We also would like to think about what type of range that we'd want the slider to have. So the slider would need to have some sort of beginning value, some sort of end value, and we could also give it a default value where we actually say where we want the slider to start upon startup. So the natural place for us to actually give the slider these values would be in the main component class in the constructor, because the constructor calls when the app is first initialized. So when you first hit the button to actually create the app, that calls the constructor, and the constructor just sets up everything for you. And that constructor only gets called once. So we don't need to create the slider again and again. We only need to create the slider once, and it'll be there for us throughout the lifetime of the application. So now what we could do is we can call on some of the methods, and we will see that there are various methods that we can call here. So we can see that we have set slider style. We can set the rotary parameters. There's actually loads. There are loads of methods that you can call on here. And so I'll just show you a couple of the basic ones here. So the first one, as I was saying before, is setting the slider style. So we've got slider 1, and then we can call set slider style. We see that this takes a slider style object. So many times
this is functions. Functions have a dot. Okay. So let's look here. What does this do? I go to definition here. Okay, let's say rotary.
Times, I know when I was first starting out with using JUCE, I thought slider style, I don't know what that means. Okay, so sometimes what you can do is you can go back to the JUCE API. I'm not sure if it's in here because it's part of the slider, it's part of the slider class. So if we scroll all the way back up, we see that we have this enum called slider style. So we see that we have linear horizontal style, linear vertical, and so on and so forth. So this tells you what sort of slider style that you want to use. So what we'll do is we will just call this a linear horizontal slider. So this tells you linear horizontal, this enum. If we scroll all the way back up, we see that we have this enum called
enum, okay. I'll go back to here.
slider style. So we see that we have linear horizontal style, linear vertical, and so on and so forth. So this tells you what sort of slider style that you want to use. So what we'll do is we will just call this a linear horizontal slider. So once again, for any JUCE objects, we need to use the JUCE namespace, and then we have JUCE, and this class called slider style is within the slider class. So we got JUCE, slider, then slider style. And we will just make this a linear horizontal slider.
That's pretty deep. Okay. Slider.
So for people that are just starting off, this may look a little bit daunting. Okay, so let's just walk through that. So this is a JUCE object, so we need to precede any JUCE objects with the JUCE namespace that lets it know, hey, we want to instantiate something that's within the JUCE API. And then the next thing is slider, because we're doing we're going into the slider class, and then we're going into slider style, and slider style is within slider. So we'll show you how that works here. So we have class slider, then we have the enum slider style. That is within the slider class. Okay, and then within that you have these different enums, and this one is linear horizontal. Okay, and I'll show you that in code really quick as well. So if we command click on Mac and then go to jump to definition, we'll see this in code. Okay, and I know that some people that are a little bit more experienced, they know these things, but these are things that took me so long to actually figure out myself. So so I'm going to go through them. So we see that we have this class called slider, and then within slider we have this enum. Oop, don't want to do that. We have this enum called slider style, and then we have all of these values. Okay, so it's good to get to know how to actually read through the code base as you're doing this. Okay, so that's how we're coming up to that that line of code. So now we have slider 1, and we can set a range. And here we have a minimum, so we'll just make the minimum 0.1. I can make sure that this stays as a float by putting a little F there, and I could make the maximum 1.0. I'll put an F there. I'll make the minimum 0. One thing that you'll notice here is if we command click into set range, what we'll see if we command click into that, actually it'll probably be easier if I show you in here. So set range, what we see here is that we can call set range with a minimum, a maximum, and we see here that there's an optional third argument, and this is something that's helpful for a lot of people, where when you see this equals 0 as an argument, what that means is that that is optional. So I can just leave it with the new minimum, the new maximum, and just leave it at that, or I could give it an interval. And an interval is when you're increasing or decreasing the slider, how much are you actually increasing or decreasing by? So in this particular situation, it'd probably be good for us to do in increments of 0.1. Okay, so if you don't do that, then what'll happen is when you get your slider range, it'll actually have 4 or 5 decimal places. It'll have 4 or 5 digits to the right of the decimal place. And a lot of people don't want that. They just want to say, okay, 1.1, 1.2, you know, so on and so forth. Another thing that we could do is we can, there's a text box style. Once again, and you can make it actually modify the default value to start off. And this is new and make component.
Okay, I want to see it now.
Now we'll go down to our paint method.
I can just put this in here, right? Slider 1.
Here, we'll just get rid of all this stuff and we'll just make the screen black. So once again, JUCE, colors, black. And now all we need to do is we need to set the actual slider on the canvas, which is our main component. So we could do that using the set bounds method.
Why is that not working?
And what I will do is I'll try to put this in the middle of the screen. So let's do get width divided by 2 minus, let's see, 300. No, actually, let's do 200. Okay, and then get height divided by 2 minus 100. And what I will do is I'll try to put this in the middle of the screen. So let's do get width divided by 2 minus, let's see, 300. No, actually, let's do 200. Okay, and then get height divided by 2 minus 100, and we'll make the width 400 and the height 200. So this should pop up in the middle of the screen. And so we will try to build now, and hopefully we'll have a slider that will be on the screen.
Okay, so to actually get something to show up, I need to first make the component here. So this is setting the variable or making the object or whatever, I guess. Then I need to define what it is exactly, give it some rules, and set it to make it visible. Then here, down here, resized, and resized, it's paint, it's setting its size. Let's see. Okay. And okay, so this is a sliding bar here. Okay.
Green. So while we're doing this, just wanted to remind you about the audio programmer community. So if you're looking to learn more stuff about code, you have questions and want to connect with other audio developers, be sure to join our community over at theaudioprogrammer.com/community, and that will give you access to our Discord server. So here we go. So here's our slider, and we can see that it gave us a default value of 0.5, and we can go left, and the minimum is 0, and the maximum is 1.0. Okay, so that's what we'll do there. And now what we could do is we can actually change this slider style. So let's do rotary horizontal vertical drag. Okay, that's another one that's quite popular. And we will build again, and we will see that we will have a rotary slider now. And once again, default value is 0.5, and it goes from 0 to 1. Okay, and that's really how you do it. So those are the basics. So for now, we're just showing the basics. Let me show you one more thing. Let me take off this third optional argument here, and let's just build that again. And you'll
It's not really
see
audio programming yet per se, right? It's kind of
actual display of
GUI
the slider is now 0.5000, and it has a little dot 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 to show you it continues on. And see here that we have more granularity in our decimal places. Okay, so you can see that that we've used that third argument to actually kind of truncate the values to 0.1.
right. Okay, I got it.
So that's really it for this tutorial. So once again, this is just the basics. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and that it was helpful for you. Be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you found it helpful, and I will see you next time.
Okay, that was pretty long. So I got that one audio plugin.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'd like to.
Okay, so I think the next one. Yeah, why not?
Welcome you to
I got time to start this, so I can start it and review it next time.
another JUCE tutorial. And in this tutorial, we're going to talk a little bit about basic plugin architecture. So many of you are looking at these tutorials to learn how to build an audio plugin. And it's important that you understand the differences of where you want to do your audio processing at versus where you want to actually try to draw your user interface and how to connect those things eventually. So this is going to be a quick tutorial. It's going to be a very basic tutorial where I give you an overview of what sort of source files you get when you actually build a JUCE plugin for the first time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a basic plugin template. So we can just do that by clicking on basic under plugin, and I'll just call this test. And now we will create the project by hitting our button in the bottom right hand corner. And now we'll just by hitting our, and so we can just do that by clicking on basic under plugin, and I'll just call this test. And now we will create the project by hitting our button in the bottom right hand corner. And now we'll just save this to the desktop. And this will give us our source files. So as we see, we have four separate source files here, and there's the plugin processor and the plugin editor. So I'm just going to open this up in IDE by clicking this center button here, and this will open us to the desktop test. And now we will create the project by hitting our button in the bottom right hand corner. And now we'll just save this to the desktop. And this will give us our source files. So as we see, we have four separate source files here, and there's the plugin processor and the plugin editor. So I'm just going to open this up in IDE by clicking this center button here, and this will open us up in Xcode. And it's taken a second. Okay, but here we are. Just going to minimize these. We just want to look at our source files. So as I said, when you create a audio plugin template, you're going to have these four source files. And as you can see, there are two separate parts basically. There's the plugin processor and the plugin editor. So the basic is that the plugin processor is where all of the audio processing is going to be done. So you can think of this as the actual data and the actual audio that's actually happening to your audio plugin. The plugin editor is what the user sees. So it's the actual user interface, the buttons, dials, and widgets that the user is able to interact with that's going to eventually connect with that data that's happening in the plugin processor. So there are a couple important functions in the processor and the editor, and I'm just going to walk you through those now. So if we go to our plugin processor.cpp, and if you're first starting off with JUCE, this could be a little bit daunting to take a look at, but I will break down the most important functions here for you. I've been using JUCE for a couple of years now, and to be honest, outside of these functions that I'm going to point out to you and creating my own, there's not a whole lot else that I actually interact with. So the first thing that you're going to see is PP. And if you're first starting off with JUCE, this could be a little bit daunting to take a look at, but I will break down the most important functions here for you. I've been using JUCE for a couple of years now, and to be honest, outside of these functions that I'm going to point out to you and creating my own, there's not a whole lot else that I actually interact with. So the first thing that you're going to see is your constructor. So if you know about C++ basics, you know that the constructor is something that instantiates when you first create an object. So when you first create the plugin, this plugin processor is going to call, and this will call the constructor that you see here in front of you. And that's going to instantiate all of the stuff that needs to happen when your plugin first starts up. Right below that, you have the Destructor. We know it's the Destructor because we see that tilde right in front of our class name, which is Test Audio Processor. So that's the Destructor. A lot of times, or sometimes, you have certain things that you need to shut down safely and destroy safely when you're actually deleting a plugin or shutting it down somehow, and that would happen in the Destructor. So now scrolling down a little bit further, like I said, a lot of these functions I don't actually even mess with. So the next function that we want to take a look at is on line 96, where we have prepare to play. So prepare to play is something that calls anytime that the user is getting ready, preparing to play audio through the plugin. So when you hit the space bar and you're about to start playing audio through the plugin, prepare to play. When you hit the is getting ready, preparing to play audio through the plugin. So when you hit the space bar and you're about to start playing audio through the plugin, prepare to play calls before the audio actually starts to play. And this is a place where normally if you have some sort of DSP process that's happening, normally you have to pass the sample rate to the DSP process so it knows how it needs to actually process the audio. You also might want to clear jump values out of your DSP processes and things like that. And that happens in prepare to play. Scrolling down a little bit further, we come to the main kind of meat of the audio processor, which is what's called the process block. Some people may call it the audio callback. So this is where the actual audio comes in and exits out of your plugin. And as you can see, there's a lot of boilerplate that goes into depth in explaining this, and there are a lot of different rules in terms of so the process block is a special type of function that's meant to be running all the time really fast, and there are certain things that you can do in the process block, and there are certain things that you cannot do in the process block. And that's something that we will talk about a little bit more in detail further down the road. But the thing to know for the moment is that the process block is where the audio actually happens, where it actually routes in to your plugin and actually does the processing, the changing of the audio, and it actually sends it back out. So that is actually those are actually the main functions in the plugin processor. I guess these two are also pertinent. So you got get set get state information. So get state information is something that we'll go through a little bit further down the road. And that's when you're actually loading your plugin. So if you have a project and you've been working with your plugin, changing some parameters, you shut it down, and now you want to bring it back up and you want it to have the saved state of information load back into the plugin, set the parameters where you last left them, then that would happen in get state information. So it's getting the state information that you saved and loading it back into the plugin to set the parameters where you want them to be. Then right below that, you have set state information, which I imagine you'll be able to figure out is where we actually set the state. So that's how it actually saves the actual state of the plugin before the project actually shuts down, so that when you're bringing your plugin back up, that you're actually able to load it in the state that you saved it in. So those are the most important functions and most important aspects of the plugin processor. So as I was saying before, the most important thing to understand about the plugin processor is that is where the actual data happens. So this is not anything visual. This is the actual stuff that happens under the hood. So the data of the plugin, the actual number crunching, the audio processing, and so on. Now you have the plugin editor. And the plugin editor, so we think that we have these pieces of data that are doing some sort of audio processing, these numbers that are crunching, and now we might have a piece of information that we have in the plugin processor, and we want the user to be able to modify that. And usually we would do that with something visual, like a user interface. So if there was a parameter that the user could turn on, then we might have a button there that when they click, the button lights up and it turns on, and then in the plugin processor there might be maybe a boolean that turns into a 1, and then when they click it again and it turns off, that boolean might turn into a 0. So basically you have these user parts that are connecting to the data that's happening on the back end. And so the plugin editor is where all of the visual aspects actually happen. How big the window is, what sort of controls is the user able to modify, combo boxes where you're able to select what different types of distortion that you have in a plugin.
Okay. Save this. Save that for next time. Okay, well. That was, scale of 1 to 10, that was about maybe a 4 as far as time versus knowledge, practical knowledge gained. So I think of a better way to start doing this. Let me see what this project, I feel like these are very tedious. Okay. I can
and use ProJuicer to.
Okay, I'm going to use these two resources to continue learning. But right now, one thing, yeah. Huh. Screw it. Okay, this goes on to sub 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Calendar also goes here. Calendar also goes here. Should be. I'm just gonna try to write down some of the notes I made the other day about how I want to divide my live streams up. So basically what I was gonna do, let's say buckets. I have buckets. Bucket 1. Bucket 2. Bucket 3. Bucket 4. Bucket 1 is gonna have music production. This music production will be probably working on this Hookpad and making music. Okay. It's also music theory. I'll probably be making the music theory database books, which is probably hook theory and music remixed textbook. That's pretty. Making that's the other. Okay. So that's all bucket 1. Bucket 2. It's gonna be guitar and audio. Bucket 3 is going to be business, blog content, and bucket 4 is going to be unique. It's going to have probably miscellaneous. It's going to have mixing, general learning, Korean maybe, and drawing things. This is pending. So I can make this look nicer later. For now, yeah. Okay. Okay. I know. I definitely should do a little bit of the building blocks, of course. Need to do a little bit every day. Test. A little bit every day. Four. So yesterday I did that hard one. Let's do an easy one today. So it should be pretty quick. Mm. Oh, it's here. Okay. I thought I had. No, I got it wrong though. I feel like there's one here. I don't want the metronome. I think I'll go a little bit slower. There's something there. Uh-huh. I think this one. This. That. Nice, okay. Shit. Again. Okay. Nice work. Fit no time. All right. Finish that one. All right. I got that done. That done. And now, time to practice guitar, actually. So. What I'm actually practicing and what I need to actually build out for my practice routine and other abuse. Well, I need to let's see. First, turn off this delay. And tune the guitar. Let's see. So I'm studying A major. I'm just gonna go through all the scales and make songs in A major, no matter how cheesy or corny it sounds. I'm just gonna stick with A major for a long time, then move to other A's. So, but first, let's see if I can find some A major chords. Let's see. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So basically, all the A's. A, 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 A. This is A. A, C sharp, and E. C. No. And E. This is an E. That's A major. Okay, so let's say A. A. Sharp. C, C sharp. C there. A, A, C sharp. Okay. All right. So now what I was working on is I can show you something I was working on in Hookpad. Okay, that's something I was working on last time. I can do a single string. Maybe that would so, here's A. A sharp, G sharp. A, G sharp. Okay. But scales, that's what I was going to work on. And I was going to make my own certain scale here. This notepad here. Okay. So I'm not going to look up any scales. I'm just going to write it on this piece of paper. I know the scale, but I'm trying to find the notes on this piece of fretboard paper. I'm gonna find all the different positions. So here I'll say. And circle. Circle is going to be the root note. There's a root note there. And there's going to be a root note here. And there's going to be a note here. 3 roots here. So here's, let's get A, B, C, A. B. Right. A, B. C sharp, D, E. So like that, right? Yeah. Right? Right? That seems more fun. A, E, C sharp, D, E. Sharp, G sharp, A, B, sharp, D. Oops. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D, E, sharp, E, sharp. F sharp. Okay. Then let's. So A, B, C sharp, D, A, B, C sharp, B, C, B, C sharp, D, C sharp, D, E, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, G sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A, G sharp, A. C sharp, D, A, B, C sharp, D, E, A sharp, C sharp, A, B, C sharp, D. Okay, alright, so let's try using all these in Real. That was okay. I'm not sure what my goal is right now for this. That's something I need to plan out, but at least I picked it up. That's straight out of Atomic Habits. Pick it up. Do something. Tomorrow, it'll be easier. And I think I'm going to call it a night. It's 11:43 here now. How long have I been streaming? Hour 40 minutes. Okay. Tonight off stream, I'm probably going to organize some stuff. What I need to do, how to do it, and so forth. So, that said, adieu. I will be back tomorrow. Same time. Hope to see you then.
To make a project. ProJuicer is found